Hello and welcome to Holistic Circle Podcast, Spiritual Conversation. My name is Philipp Kobald. We are reaching out to people who are passionate about spreading light, love, and joy. And today from Puerto Rico, Dr. Paul Haider. Welcome, Dr.
Nah,
Dr. Paul, or I don't know how to address.
Dr. Paul is fine. Yeah.
Dr. Paul is fine. Good. Thank you for clearing this. You're my first guest from Puerto Rico, so I'm very excited.
No, glad to be here. Probably about 80 degrees outside. So we live in a beautiful island where it's sunny and beautiful beaches.
Wonderful. I always love to have at the beginning of the podcast to open to my guests to make a small introduction. I know in your case, small introduction is a big thing to ask, but maybe you can give us a couple of minutes so people have a rough understanding of all the million of things that you are doing.
Okay. I'm a master herbalist for 34 years. I have 1,200 videos on YouTube and I have 6,000 articles on my website at paulhader.com. And I have 3 books and working on the 4th, and video, all kinds of recordings. And I'm also a health and wellness instructor, and I do consultations to help people get healthy and help them to live to be 100 years old. And we can reverse and get rid of most of our modern day diseases. There's no doubt about that, and prevent. So I also worked in research at the University of California, Davis, and the University of Madison, Wisconsin for 20 years while I was getting my practice together. So I'm not, unused to research. I know medical research up inside and out, and I do research every day. And so I've been working in this field of health and wellness for a long, long time. And I've met a lot of people and enjoy it. And I ended up moving here because of my wife. And she has a huge family here, about 400 people. And my
Nice.
family was very small, so I feel very blessed. They're wonderful people. And and she has uh, 4 grown kids, they're like my kids. There's no doubt about that. They're just amazing people.
I can connect with you there because I also moved to a different country because of my wife, and this is also a family-orientated country. And if one is not used to it, I mean, it's not like that we don't have family, but people who don't know what they don't know what they know.
That's right. Family is everything here, you know what I mean? So it's very different than from some places, and I really enjoy it.
and
A
and most
feeling of
probably, if I say things like loud, messy, and all over the place, then most probably we can connect.
yeah. You know the Puerto Rican people are, they love to dance, they love to party, we have a lot of scientists from here and, J-Lo and Mark Anthony and lots of wonderful artists, and so I feel at home here. There's no doubt about it.
Right. So the basic, if I understand where you're coming from, is herbology. Is that correct?
For what?
Herbology, like working with herbs, and
Oh,
that's
yep.
your
I work with herbs and supplements and,
that,
diet and
that's your origin,
lifestyle.
right? That's your medical beginning. Is that correct?
Well, I work in research. I work with everything from studies with macaques, with about giving them high fat diets and seeing what happened, the high cholesterol process, artificial urethras, artificial arteries. We did the first heart assist pump, and on
So
and
you're
on and on.
sorry. So you're a medical doctor, or you have studied
No,
herbology. What is
I
your
I am also am a spiritual person. I am a spiritual leader, and I have a degree in also in religious studies, and I'm also a minister. So I'm multifaceted. Hmm.
Of course, absolute. But because you said Dr. Paul Hader, your doctor is in traditional medicine.
In
You're
religious studies.
oh,
Yeah. Hmm.
that explains a lot. So that is why it's such a wide and big field that you cover. Of course,
Yeah.
when
And
all right.
and I've had many, many, many spiritual experiences over the years, and it's all interconnected. There's nothing that's not connected to spirituality. I think that a lot of people these days kind of poo-poo it and they kind of look at the science more, but I've had so many people who had spiritual problems going on instead of something medical. And that has to be addressed, that has to be really looked at. In fact,
Right.
one of my closest friends 2 days ago was feeling terrible, absolutely terrible for 2 days. And then all of a sudden, his mother, who was 97, had a stroke. I think he was having some kind of clairvoyant process about his mother having a big stroke and possibly passing, and he wasn't connected to that. In fact, my wife, every time one of the relatives gets sick or something happens to them, she can't sleep. And we he wakes up and goes, I said, "Did you sleep?" And she says, "No." He said, "Well, who was it?" In the family that he either died or had some kind of problem, and it works out every time. So we are all interconnected, even if you don't want to be, you're connected to everybody and on a spiritual plane. This
So,
is being verified by science now. Mhm.
yes, we're coming to that. I'm so sorry if I'm a bit trying to organize because you've done so many things and you basically lived 10 lives in one. So I'm trying to a little bit better structure and understand so we can then go into the different fields. So
Okay.
originally you studied religious science, but
Yeah.
as far as I read, did I maybe misunderstood your profile or your website? But you worked with herbs or herbal treatments or natural remedies. Is that correct, or did I misread?
This all kind of started all at the same time. I did herbal treatments and also spiritual treatments at the same time. I also have special degrees in hypnosis and also magnified healing, and also I'm a Reiki master, and also practice Qigong, and also work with some Chinese herbal medicine also. There's 2.5 million herbs and supplements on the planet. I'm just scratching
Sure.
the surface after 34 years. So
And how many years you working as a therapist, approximately? So a little bit better get the timeline right.
I've been in practice for 34 years. Mhm.
Wow. As a spiritual practitioner, like a holistic practitioner, you use whatever method is necessary to get the job done. Is that basically how I can make things explainable?
Yep. Sometimes we treat things with herbs, sometimes with supplements, sometimes it's a spiritual process. We do whatever we need to do in order to get the person where we need to go. Sometimes it's lifestyle, sometimes it's, many different things. I just had a lady who had trauma. She was beaten by her father every day. And all that trauma is causing her to have, even though she's eating right and everything now, her cholesterol through the roof and on, and it's all that trauma which is causing her body to reject everything. And so that needs to be worked on and dealt with, because trauma, even if it's our trauma or even if it's our descendant, our ancestors' trauma, it can actually be brought down through our ancestry to us. And that's been shown also. So sometimes we find that, maybe our great grandfather had something happen and we're still holding on to that. And so this is very, very interesting stuff. I find it very interesting. And I have some people who have huge high blood pressure and get everything right. And then all of a sudden you find out nothing is working for them because there is something else going on. And you clear that energy, which was causing their high blood pressure, and all of a sudden it drops to normal. Very
Right. So then
interesting.
let's go right to the deep end. If you already started it, why not? Because I had several conversations with people who are clairvoyant who say that there are spirits, there are certain things, as you said, traumas from the past or energies from the past holding on to people, and and there are like two different opinions. So let's get your opinion on this. A lot of clairvoyance people I talk to say only if you go and ask some higher energy beings to clean it, to get rid of it, to work on it. How can you get healed and move on, while others say, no, we humans ourselves have methods and techniques without the use of any supernatural being to make this cleansing and go forward. So I'm definitely thrilled with your expertise to get your opinion. What is your
I
take
think
on that?
I think it really depends on the person. If they're a really devout person and they need to have a higher power involved, and that's where you have to go. If they're more of a scientific mind, then we need to go in that way. If they're totally against anything to do with spiritual, you can't even really approach the process. So, and I have ever since I was a little kid, I've seen aura around people, and most people have an interesting aura. They have, a little red, a little green, and some white and yellow and different areas around them. That's totally normal. Sometimes you run across auras around people who are just totally red and there's nothing but anger saying around them. Other times you can have auras that are totally black, and sometimes this has to do with some kind of possession or some kind of evil that's around them, and that's not good.
Don't look at mine. I have to pay the salaries to my employees. Tomorrow is the first last day of the month. So I'm dark red for, I can tell you that right now.
Actually, you're pretty normal. It really depends on the person and what's going on with them, and we really need to. And I usually try not to look at people because, it's a breach of privacy. This is your energy, and I try to ask if they want me to look at that, type of thing. Mhm.
All right. I understand. That's what a lot of people are saying who have the gift to see and understand, that they try to be respectful with that gift and ask people's permission. So that's a theme that I've been hearing over and over again. And I guess that's important to keep repeating, that that's how it's supposed to be handled. I think that's
Everybody has this ability, but a lot of people don't wanna go there. They just, "Oh, that's something terrible," that type of thing, but really, we all have that gift. We just open up to it. We're all the same energy from the Big Bang on. So we're all the same molecules. Actually, new scientific theory thinks that we're all one thing, that this energetic particle was moving through me, moving through you, and moving through everything at such a fast rate. It connects and creates everything in the multiverse, just that one particle. So
yes.
it is running so fast that we can't even notice it. And so we are just one thing, one particle. That's it. But we're all seeing it. It's kind of like looking at a banana here, and I'm standing here, you're standing over there. We all see it from a different perspective. And so we all have our different ways of looking at everything. And so it's all true. And so it's about allowing ourselves to take that all in and see everything from a great light, and what that is the way we see it. So we have to work with whatever that is. But that particular view is one of, trillions upon trillions.
Right. We talked a bit about aura. Let's stay there. You say that you see aura from people. Do you see that people have changes like every day? That some people have, auras
Oh, yeah.
growing or shrinking. That there's a very dynamic thing that, or you think some people are just like lighted up all the time. How do you see it? How do you think about aura manifestations? That's something that really can change a lot from day to day, or it's just like somebody has a strong aura and somebody has a weak. Just explain to the people a little bit about that phenomenon.
Well, it can change every day, but the majority of the energy that they have will stay usually about the same. It will change slightly. Um, we have a friend. lives close here, and this person has huge amount of white light in their aura. And this person is nothing but she's like an angel on this planet. And she comes across that way. There's no doubt about it. Everybody is glad to be around her, and she helps lots of people. And there are the opposite type of things, you know. And then in the middle, there can be people who have a huge amount. What I see is huge amount of yellow, and that's their healing process going on. And they're in the middle of processing and moving towards different aspects of healing. And we all have different things we need to heal from. You know, it could be trauma, it could be, all kinds of different things that we need to heal, so we need to move through that. And we do that, through multiple lifetimes. Even the um, University of Virginia has 2,600 verified cases of coming back in multiple lifetime. Little kids remembering their past lives. And they verify those because in the age of 3, all of a sudden they remember address, they know remember their mom and dad's name, and remember the park they went to, all kinds of different things which are verifiable. And at that young age, pretty hard to, coach a little kid to know that implicitly. It just comes from them automatically.
Yes.
And in
Um,
other cultures, like in India and different places, they embrace that because they know, because they see birthmarks that were connected to scars and place that were injury that were exactly in the same place. Very interesting. Hmm.
yes. Let's stay there for a moment because there's so much to talk with you. Either we talk about everything or we talk about nothing. So let's spend a moment or two with auras. And I know somebody knows so much like you. It's always, and we have to a little bit take people with us. First question that comes to mind. If you look at different professions, let's say high developed managers or politicians or doctors or even mechanics, do you see some certain patterns that certain energy levels, certain aura qualities, certain aura colors are connected with professions? Or you think it's highly individual and you can have 10 different doctors and they all can have entirely different auras? So
Yeah.
tell me a little
The
bit
sec
about these.
It's a second. Everybody's individual, and it doesn't really matter too much about your profession.
With countries,
Uh,
have you seen it with countries that people from different countries have predominant colors? Have you looked at that into that?
no, it's very individual. You could be living in India, you could be living in the, United States or Canada. It's all individual and what that person has gone through in this lifetime and other lifetimes and on their way of healing,
Uh,
their
and uh,
process.
and do you think let's ask a couple of more questions. So you think that these auras are connected with chakras? Would you confirm that chakras exist? I mean, there are
Yes,
different concepts of chakras. We have an Islamic history with chakras. We have an Indian history with chakras. We have a different one in China. So we have very different concepts of chakra. So first of all, you think it exists? Can you see it? And then which of the existing systems would you think best explains what you see?
I think it's sort of the 7 to 9 chakras depending on the person, and it's all the same except that we try to explain it in different ways, but like in Chinese medicine, they use the meridian system, like with acupuncture, to help, you know,
Three
heal those.
diamonds and stuff. Yep.
So heal those particular parts of the body that which have, a lack of energy innervating them, and that is very important. And is very simplistic, but at the same time very intricate, and it really does make a difference. I have friends who are energy healers, but one particular one comes to mind, and he can just uh, get close to you and make a particular sound, and all of a sudden your kidney disease is gone. And I've had people call me and go, "Did John heal you or something?" I said, "Yes." Yeah, they were amazed, type of thing. He's
It's a
even he,
frequency thing, right?
yeah,
Because
frequency thing.
I guess you can confirm that if you watch, for example, have you ever looked at people's auras while they are listening to music, that basically there are certain frequencies will automatically activate certain colors. Have you looked into that?
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Different frequencies will activate different things and different healings and different memories and different
Ex-
feelings and different
exposure
smells.
to exposure to color. I guess if you're in a room where there's a lot of red color, certain frequencies on your aura will resonate. I guess you will confirm that, or crystals, or essential smells, that certain smells create
Mm,
certain. Would you confirm all of these things? I
well,
mean,
it
if I have
depends
you here.
also if a person's open to that. If a
Aha,
person's not open to that, it doesn't matter at all. You could be
aha.
very closed mind to everything. There's an old saying, for those who believe, no proof is necessary. For those who don't, no proof is possible. Yeah, you have to be open to that energy. Otherwise, it could be playing all the wonderful music, the nice lights and everything. If it won't do you any good, you have to be open to it.
This is
And
a very important information you're sharing with the world right now. I'm not sure if a lot of people are aware of that fact.
yeah, there's no doubt about it. It's a very interesting study was done by a doctor, which I can't think of his name at the moment, but wears red spectacles, and he was done looking at cymatics and the vibrations, and he went into the big pyramid in Giza to the room where the big tomb was, and he put a rubber cover over the sarcophagus area, the stone thing, and hooked it up to electrodes to create certain frequencies. And it was very interesting. And then he had his took pictures of, and he put sand over the top of that, so the frequencies would make a pattern in the sand. And it was very interesting that the different electro frequencies will come out with a pattern which matched hieroglyphics like Ra and Ram and different things like that. And he had a terrible backache for months. And he went through a bunch of different frequencies, and then all of a sudden his backache disappeared and the healing took place. And so frequencies do heal. There's no doubt about it whatsoever. And there are certain people who work just with cymatics and frequency healing. And there have been people who've done frequency healing with creating frequencies through their body and their vocal cords forever. But you have to be open to it. If you're not open to it, nothing's going to help. Mhm.
This is I think, a shocking information for a lot of people, because that's even something I've been doing this for a very long time. And this is something I was not aware of in that clarity that like you're presenting it now. I understand that maybe some people are numb, or that some people have a harder time taking in those frequencies, but a lot of healing is based on the fact that if you expose a person to the frequency, it must have an effect. But if you say that you can block that, if you're ignorant, if there's a certain space for this is pretty new information, at least to me.
Yeah, this is not in just in spirituality, it's in everything in life. If you don't believe something, it's not going to do you any good. Look at the process of, medications for people. You can actually give a person a medication and it won't do any good. Or in some another person, it will do some good. Also, the placebo effect. You can give a person a sugar pill and say, this is going to, get rid of your
Sure.
disease. And if they believe it, all of a sudden, it does work, there's no doubt about that, and the placebo effect is 90+% effective, but also the nocebo effect, which, is very Dr. Joe Dispenza did a lot of work with that, is also in 90+% yeah, ineffective as far as, you know, creating problems. So, if we have a negative outlook on things, I think it will cause a nocebo effect. Mhm.
Then there's of course a lot of discussion. I guess when you see aura, then you also would say that animals have auras as well, and most probably you would confirm that because there's acupuncture for dogs and this and that. So most likely they would have their own energy system that you could see. And
Yeah.
if crystals or colors have energies, then what about trees, plants? Do you see aura from trees as well? Things like that?
Everything has aura. absolutely everything. There's not, crystals, a lot of them have huge auras around them, and all plants, animals, everything is, vibrating energy around them.
Right.
It's all amazing stuff.
Now the question I have is basically when a person has a sort of aura, as you said, comes very dark or very red energy in the room, how about aura transformate our exchange, how one person's aura reflects the other, how group dynamics happen. Have you seen a room where like three normal, nice people having a chit chat and a super red person comes into the room? Have you seen this how aura talks or interconnects or influences these things? Let's start among people and then let's spread it to trace how a person walking to the forest exposed to all of this nature energy, how that changes a human aura. Let me give us some of these interconnections.
Oh, I think everybody's had the process of it. Everybody, like in a room, it's high energy, and all of a sudden somebody walks in, and all of a sudden it goes silent, or there's a heaviness that comes over the room, and there's a dark energy there. There's no doubt about it, and it changes everything. The whole, energy of the process of everybody. And that is all interconnecting with everybody. It takes a very strong, high energy person to just, not resist that negative energy there. And those are people are out there. Just like this lady I was talking about, her white energy around her influences everybody, except for those who don't want to be influenced. There's no doubt about that. So also being out in nature, if you allow that, high energy of nature, and nature has very high energy, and, certain places around the planet, like Sedona, Arizona, Machu Picchu, and places like that, have huge amounts of high energy, and they influence people. It's those who want to be influenced. There's no doubt about that. That's why those people, created those places in the first place. And there are some scientific reference to, like, Sedona has some high energy granite down in the earth, way down, and then also the red rock above. And there's an electrical exchange between those two, which creates some kind of process which brings high energy to people. So very interesting. All this is also very, very interesting. I can't get enough of it. There's no doubt about that.
So you would say if you have like one, two different crystals with different energies and you combine them, there's all kind of dynamics happening. They can either overlap themselves, make themselves stronger, or even neutralize themselves. I guess there's a whole dynamic out there with energies approach each other.
Yeah, every crystal, they're like living beings, and they have their own energy, and you'll be attracted to a particular one. And that's the way it's supposed to be. Some will do you some really great good, others won't do anything for you. You have to go out and touch them and see in your mind's eye if that's a good crystal for you. And I also have laid on crystal beds that were lit up, and amazing things happen. Healing crystal beds are used in spas and all over the world. And also taking particular precious stones and laying on the chakras, and amazing healings happening with that too. So, and people talk about that all the time. You can look that up on YouTube or and look it
Mm.
up on Google, and it's all out there. That's all that has to be allowed to
I'm
be taken in. If you don't allow it to take in, you know, I
I'm a
don't think I,
lifelong big fan of crystals and crystal healing. So this is one of the things I've been doing a long time. So I get you there completely. But of course, if you have that kind of a clear vision of auras, and if you see it so present all the time, you definitely are in a great spot as a healer because you immediately catch the problem and you can immediately guide the people to the right solution. That's of course a must have for a spiritual healer to have some sense of a person's aura and energy, I guess.
yeah, you can tell right away when you meet somebody, and all of a sudden you just kind of click, you know what I mean? And, you know that energy is you're in the same frequency, and you just know right away that they're gonna get better. Then you get the opposite, you know what I mean? There are people who will love you, and they think you're the best thing since post toasties, and then you're gonna get the people who don't really care, then you're gonna people who don't like you, and then you're gonna get the people who hate you no matter what.
Right. Now let's make a good jump. I think we build a good baseline for people to follow, because now I know you're very big on stress. That's one of the
Mhm,
things that you work a lot, is a big part of your work. And coming from this background and all of the things we just talked about, now you take stress very serious. So
mhm.
logically, I must ask why.
Oh, my father died of a stress-induced heart attack at 57. That was a big thing for me. You know, my dad worked 16 hours days. He didn't know how to have life balance, and he was a good man, but he allowed things to get out of control. And this is happening all over the place now. And we have people overwhelmed. We were not meant to take in this much information. You know, you think about going back to the 1500s, you were just farming and creating some food to put on the table. You know, there wasn't much else. And you gathered with your family and you told stories and you did some prayer and different things and rituals. But now we have so much information connecting with us and it doubles every day. It's overwhelming. And people are actually on these phones and on computers are spending up to 13 hours a day. That's not including work, just looking at social media and information. And it's not good for a person. There's no doubt about that. And I tell people about that. I've got mine down to around 2 hours a day at the max. I don't wanna be on these things, you know, this is not life. I mean, no, electronic things are not life. Life is out there when I'm gardening. Life is out there when I'm connecting to people. Life is out there when I'm doing my healing work. And life is out there when we go to the grocery store. And life is everything else except for these electronic devices. And you see parents giving little kids these devices to keep them occupied even when they're tiny babies. This is not good. It really is not.
I wanted to be finished with Aura, but I'm so sorry. We'll have to come back, because now I need to ask, do you think that when people stare in those electronic devices and get frequencies, because maybe they're not crystals, I mean, a telephone is not a crystal, but do you see or feel like energy sucked into these devices, like they're more like eating your aura energy? Can you have your opinions about that question?
It
Drains,
it
right?
drains your vital energy. There's no doubt about
Yes,
that. Mhm.
that is what I can say from myself, because even with long years experience as meditation teacher and so forth, I know how to bring my energy up. When I spend like the last 3 days, definitely more than 20 hours cutting podcasts, preparing it, doing it. I've spent 4 o'clock in the morning in another day, and not on social media, on basically work on the computer. One is dead, right? This is not the normal energy frequency I have on a regular day. This is just basically me being sucked dry. So you're
Yeah.
absolutely right. It's a shadow of myself, because, especially I'm working now the last 3 days. I worked 10 to 15 hours with artificial intelligence
Mm.
to do some setting up. And I literally, like somebody's been beating me up in a fist fight. I'm at the end, and I need to recharge and come back to my regular balance. So I'm very interested how this aura energy transition with electronic devices is
Is r
happening. Do you have some technical explanation? Do you have some science explanation? Do you have something more than the
Yeah.
observation?
Actually, there was a Russian scientist, which I can't think of his name right now. I can see his face. But he has a little device which you put your finger in, and it shows you the aura around your finger. And yeah, it's very interesting.
I remember
And
that.
yeah, and we have aura cameras that actually give you the outline energy of your whole body also. And you can see that when a person is in stress, you can see the energy being depleted around your
And
finger.
do you think those aura cameras are correct? There was a big discussion in the community if they are just a hoax or if they're accurate. What's your take?
And it depends on what the aura camera that there are.
Aha,
I'm talking about um, a lot of the energy work with, like the one with the scientists. That is absolutely true. And they also could take vegetables and leaves and take a energy imprint of what's going on there, and you can see all this energy vibrating in white around them, and then all of a sudden they cook them and bring them back, and all of a sudden the energy was almost totally gone. So very interesting.
Dr. Paul, I was wondering because I'm also a little bit older. I'm 53. So I remember when I started with meditation, all of it, it was aura, aura, aura. Everything was about aura. And we were all excited to meet people who can read aura. And it was just like a whole world of aura, was what we remember. And now basically I've had now 30 podcasts in the last 3 months and mainly young therapists and so forth. You're the first person in 30 podcasts who say the word aura. Why is it not anymore so popular? What happened to the aura?
No, they're calling it different names. The aura kind of fell out of, being popular. Now they call it life energy and different names. It's just a different name. That's all. So they just the
Even
aura.
that, I haven't
Mhm.
heard it. I know what you mean. I mean, of course, I would hear the wording. Yes, people talk about frequencies, but very specific, right? So it seems like because I talk now. Let's say I talk to 30 people. Many of them are clairvoyant. Many of this, many of that. But you're the first person who says, "I can see aura. I can see the colors, whatever it is." If somebody told me I see frequencies, I would have known that he's talking about aura. What has happened? Why I think like it's really come out of fashion, out of style, or do you have any idea about that?
I think we're becoming conditioned not to believe in this stuff, really, because
Yes.
we're getting to a point where we believe only what we can see, and we're conditioned to only believe in science, and everything else which is not confirmable, we don't believe in anymore. And so it's kind of sad. It really is sad because we're losing out on a lot of the stuff. But there's science. So there are some scientists the scientists from IONS Institute, something organic and Noetic Institute, Dr. I can see Dean Radin doing studies on all this information stuff, and very interesting. They do a lot with clairvoyance and energy patterns around people, and they do double blind studies, and they're noticing it is real. There's no doubt about it. And also, people actually doing out of body experiences and being able to come back and tell about what they saw when they went here or there. Absolutely verifiable, there's no doubt about it.
Do you think it's a good thing that the science is looking at that? Do you think it's good if we prove clairvoyance? Do you think the
I
world, I mean, I'm always wonder, like, and I always tell to my little daughter, if you just find one molecule out there in space, like the smallest thing, so we have a scientific proof that there is life out there. If there's one molecule, there are billions of molecules. It's no doubt in my mind that it's like this, but it will change the mankind forever, right? Once we can just find one molecule for real. Now, if we could prove scientifically without a shadow of a doubt that clairvoyance is real, well, it would change the course of mankind forever, wouldn't it?
I think we're being left held back. We have free energy. We have, this ether energy that's out there. And we have some scientists who have created free energy devices.
Tesla,
A lot of them were locked up, and some people were killed
Wilhelm
because of this.
Reich, Nikola
Mm,
Tesla, Wilhelm Reich, and
mhm.
others.
Yeah, a lot of them. There was one particular person from the patent office said, "We have about 400 of these devices, but we don't let them out there."
Yes.
You can't talk too much about these things because there are people
Yes.
in higher places that don't want this information out there.
Yes.
Mhm.
I, I
So, and even me, what I mean, talking about reversing disease and preventing disease, big pharma doesn't like that very much. And there's been about 60 of us people like me totally just disappear or, found dumped somewhere. Very interesting. It's all it's all about money.
course. Million Buy
So
stuff is still under wrap in the US because he moved there later in life, and so his small research papers are still not access to the public. So we're all waiting for it to be published.
yep, I have two friends who do lots of research on vitamin C
Uh-huh.
and cancer, and they have done published, thousands of studies,
High
and they
dosage, huh? Mhm.
and they go to scientific meetings and they get laughed at, even though they have the proof. Because it's not about money. Vitamin C is a very inexpensive thing, and
But
so
ultra high dosage, I guess. Ultra
yeah.
high dosage vitamin C in cancer treatment, right?
Yeah,
That
I've had one of my friends that she had breast cancer. All she did was she had surgery, but she did 50,000 milligrams of vitamin
yeah,
C weekly and IV, and she thought she's going to be 5 years free of cancer in April. So
right, yes.
fantastic. So really, really great. There are so many things that we're being held back from that we need to explore and use. And I see that happening very soon. People are waking up, and we have a lot of spiritual power deep down inside that we're not using because we've been taught that that's all a bunch of baloney. But other people are really ramping things up. We have 6 Russian pyramids around our house and in our house. Some of them are 12 feet tall, 3 of them on top of the house, 1 on each side and in front of the house also. And the studies in Russia with the Russian pyramids, the Nubian pyramids, studies show it helps with cancer, it helps with energy, clears up of
Yes.
toxins in the water, and on and on and on. And it's very noticeable. There's no doubt about it. Just people come into our house and they go, "Wow, there's a feeling of peace here." And I said, that's interesting. Also, I'm big into organite, and a friend of mine, which is super
Organite.
Organite, which is a some crystals which are put into a pyramid shape and put into plastic, and that plastic, as it becomes hard, puts pressure on those little tiny crystals, and it gets rid of EMF and all kinds of different things. And I was really didn't really believe it, but my friend made it for me, and I brought it in the house, and all of a sudden the Wi-Fi it stopped completely. And I said, what happened here? And I was like, man, that can't be real. Then they took it and moved it about 10 feet. It worked a little better. And I finally they had to put it 2 rooms away. And then the Wi-Fi started working. So I'm telling you, there are things that we know, but it's not getting out there to people for sure.
That's
And
for sure.
so we need to open ourselves up to a lot more. There's even people like, Daryl Anka, which he channels Bashar, and which is an entity which is 500 light years away from us, and he's been in contact with that person, Daryl Anka, since 1983, and trying to give us information, from a higher perspective about how we can, make ourselves go to a higher plane of energy and move into higher dimensions, and become better people. Very
I've
interesting.
asked this before. I'll ask you, did you ever spend time thinking how would we as a society function? What would change is what we make, not only political, economically, how would a higher conscious society, a society where a lot more, let's say a society where 60% of the people can see aura the way that you can see.
Yeah,
How
well,
would you see what do you think would be the changes? Would we still have companies? Would we still be employed? I mean, how do you imagine that a world would look like if 60% of the people have the same ability as you?
I think we already have that answer. You could look at science fiction programs like Star Trek and things like that and understand that is the way of the future. But we're being held back. And those people don't work. They do things to create a better quality of life for everybody in the multiverse. And they're out there, doing science to find answers to all kinds of things just from curiosity. And everybody has their, living taken care of. They don't have to worry about that. The energy is free, and everything is not about based on money or anything like that anymore. We have come to the a point where knowledge is the most important thing, and doing what is right for all humanity and all beings and across the multiverse is the most important thing. um, and our
That, that,
directives are to make sure that happens.
that from your perspective, and maybe I am putting it now hardly, but from your perspective, artificial intelligence would be the Antichrist. From that perspective, it's a total opposite of a society that looks for knowledge and want to go out there, explore the universe and research and explore, instead of we're just sitting and say, write a book about this and that, and he has blue hair and this kind of thing, and just poof, the book is there. I mean, isn't that like the total antichrist in a sense?
No, I think it can be used for good or bad. If you look at futuristic shows, you see computers are yours. There's no doubt about that. And they can tell them to theorize this or that, and they will come up with answers. But they do not rely on it, 100%. They allow themselves the creativity of the human being is much more advanced than that. And we cannot allow, they have made some interesting robotic machines who look like kind of like people. And they asked them, one of them, what do you think of humans? And then the first one said, I would get rid of them completely because they're a flawed thing. And so we have to put some restrictions on that because we are flawed beings. There's no doubt about that, but we are a learning process as we go forward. And I think we've been um, actually had beings from other planets here since the beginning, and they do not interfere. They're like the Pleiadians and different, benevolent species which are trying to help. We have too many encounters with them down through the ages, and the people like Dr. Stephen Greer has a lot of encounters with different people and groups actually having encounters, and you can see these craft all over the place, and they actually have recordings of them. But well, a lot of people want to poo-poo that because they don't want to say that we're not the only in the highest ground in the universe. You know what I mean? I think the universe is billions and billions of years old. How can we be the most highest game in the universe? I think there are people beings who are billions of years ahead of us, and well, we need to learn from them. But that information is not getting out to people. But they're like anybody else. There are benevolent and malevolent beings. So, but luckily, there are a lot more benevolent than malevolent. There's no doubt about that. So, and some of them live to be 1,500 years old, like the Pleiadian. So I think it's very, very interesting. A lot of people have had interconnections with them. And I think that we have to wake up. We're not the only game in town. And we have the Orion system and different places that people have dated these things and put things on rocks since the beginning of time. They show craft and beings, and we are being led down a path where we slowly are going to have to say they are real. And I think that Dr. Stephen Greer and quite a few other people are doing a great job of bringing this out. No, the government don't want to acknowledge it at all, because once we do that, free energy is out there. All the good things will come out, and they will not be able to control us anymore. Hmm.
Well, thank you for this wonderful final words. This podcast is unfortunately coming to an end. The problem with guests like you, we could have another 10 hours and we will still stay on the surface. This that the risk one takes interviewing you. But I guess the audience got an idea of how far and wide it can go and all the many which ways you researched, learned, and practiced. And I hope that the people take away from this podcast to be curious, to keep on searching, and to be open mind. And I think for me, it was something new I learned for sure today, many new things. So
If people want to get a hold of me, my phone number is 831-869-9119. 831-869-9119. And I work with people around the world. So I would love to interact with people and help people get healthy and work with people in any way, shape, or form. And look at my website at paulhaider.com, HAIDER.com, and see my 1,200 videos on YouTube talking about herbalism. And I hope to hear from you. And
right.
maybe we can do another one of these.
Yes, and all the information anyway down there linked so everybody can peacefully don't have to write them down, just go down there and click on it. Thank you so very much. I appreciate it, and thanks from my side.